This is Steve.
And this is Shawn.
Welcome to Acro Media's High Five.
So, Steve, what are we going to talk about?
So, have you heard about Adobe and Magento?
Sitting in a tree?
If you have a Magento site, you're probably like, what is going to happen now that Adobe bought up Magento? And Adobe's not really known for being open source at all.
You mean big evil Adobe? Flash kill open source thing type Adobe's? Not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least, hey, they have Adobe Acrobat Reader, you know? Or a PDF reader, or we
Which
use
is like
that.
the opposite of open source because
Yeah.
it constantly it makes you pay to edit the document
Exactly. So,
of what should
like,
be an open standard.
everyone knows this now. This isn't news anymore. This was news a while ago, but we're talking about it now because we are not hip with it.
Also, if it's news to you,
Yes,
sorry.
then that's a problem.
Yeah.
Regardless of the fact, we have this situation, and we kind of need to talk about it a little bit today because I can only imagine if I'm a Magento site owner that I'm probably a little anxious and uncertain as to what the future is going to hold for me.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but
Yeah.
you don't know that yet.
and so why don't we kind of talk about, the good first, right? Because the reality is that, Adobe's not going to just buy Magento and then just be like, hey, we don't want customers, let's be evil. That's not who they are. Obviously, they're in a space of acquisition and trying to push their platform forward and being capturing a large percentage of the market. So one thing that I would imagine is that they go full cloud. Obviously cloud being closed and kind of going down that model, but then they can probably maintain PCI compliance. They can kind of handle all of those things, security, data infrastructure. So what else would be good about kind of that model if they went down that road?
Well, I think we'll touch on a little bit more why that model and why that model probably fits for Adobe.
Sure.
Maybe.
Yeah.
First, and then we can sort of talk how it's going to work. Just that we're not completely wildly speculating.
Yeah.
So they had an initial call where they sort of announced the purchase of Magento, and they talked about it only in cloud terms. They were like, "We purchased Magento Cloud, and it's going to complement our cloud offerings, cloud. So there was no
Which is
mention
why I'm
of
speculating
the other things. It's not just sort of us wildly guessing.
Sure.
And then because all their offerings are based after it's all Creative Cloud. All their services are these cloud services now. I mean, they don't even really want to do things like Photoshop as like an app. It's all like cloud options. And e-commerce has been a big gap in their offerings. They've tried to go after other services. They tried to go after the Demandware one. They lost that one out. They've lost out on a couple of acquisitions. So they were getting sort of a little pressured into they felt this was a gap and they needed to fill it in their cloud offering, and so that's why they went for the Magento piece. So it's really seems to be designed to slot into that spot. So
I agree with
I'm
that.
not guessing. Yes.
So that's not speculation at all. I think you nailed that piece at least. You've done your homework for once. But so with that and going down the cloud road, like what would be like if you're the site owner? Why would you feel good about that?
You already were using Magento Cloud. Say if you were that, it's probably good for you. Adobe's a big company. They'll probably put lots of money. They paid a lot of money for Magento. They'll probably put lots of money behind it, and they'll increase it. And they don't already have an existing thing, so it's not like they're buying a competitor to shut them down.
Sure, yeah.
They're likely buying this to improve it as an offering to compete against other people. So it seems likely that it will continue in that aspect. Or if you are a Magento person and you don't really care about hosting it yourself, or you don't use the community version, or you don't care about editing and customizing, and a SaaS solution would work well for you, and then it's great. It's probably great, because they're going to improve on that part of the business, which was actually a newer part of Magento. So it's probably going in the direction you want. If you answer differently to those questions,
then now we're in a different situation.
then we're getting a little more worried. The community edition for Magento was already becoming a little bit of a second-class citizen.
Yeah. I think we have all kind of felt that because whenever we've even been, from like a sales perspective, in bids versus like us representing Drupal Commerce and going against Magento Community, it's typically that we're not. It's always like you're going versus the enterprise.
Yeah.
The community edition is kind of like, oh well, we like that they have the ability to do that, but no one's really buying.
And
that
if someone
one.
has the community edition, they're either looking to re-platform to something else or move to the enterprise edition because it's not really a fully supported solution.
Yeah, which is kind of unfortunate because for a long time it was a big part of their business.
Yeah, and then through the various acquisitions and stuff, like Magento was owned by eBay for a while and things like that.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, but that tended to sort of the direction dropped off a lot of the community open source aspects of it. And that's why like Oro Commerce was spun off by a bunch of the original people from Magento, and it's kind of gotten quite a bit away from its sort of open source roots.
So if you weren't using the cloud offering and you're kind of in this place, obviously in this situation of like, okay, where do we go from here? Where do they go from here? Like at least in your perspective.
It seems like if you're on the community edition, especially, you're doing sort of particularly poorly. If you're on the enterprise edition, you might still have to be worried because it seems like they're really going in a cloud route. But the community one, you're 2 steps removed kind of from what their goals are.
Yeah, you're probably going to be deprecated at this point.
Yeah, you're not going to start to get a lot of new features. I imagine the support further decreases. Who knows what Adobe can do, but it doesn't seem to match with any of their models. So you have to move now. You either have to move to one of the Magento offerings that do still exist, which might not be what you want. They don't necessarily match with you if you did go with the community edition, or you have to go to something else.
Yeah.
So you have to move away from Magento, and you have to
that's the thing
to a different open source
that's the thing when you go you pretty much are forced, because if you go down the route of more of like an enterprise setup, you're just going to get into other cloud offerings. For the most part,
or really expensive on-premise ones, oftentimes like that, right? If you're getting into the enterprise space, you're getting into those ones that they cost $150,000 a year minimum, kind of thing, right? And if you got the community edition, that's probably not your jam or whatever, right? Like even if you like those features, that's probably just not a feasible option for you.
So it really boils down to if you were on even the enterprise or the community and you still wanted to have control over your data, control over specific integrations that might not be a part of like the channel network, anything like that, or even maybe have maybe a legacy piece of technology that somehow has been integrated, you're kind of hooped. That's really the reality. And then the only option that seems like a legitimate option would be going down an open source route, in which you can still control over those things. Yeah, if you want to keep that kind of thing, you have you can split off to a big enterprise one, and you lose a bunch of the open things, but at least maybe it's not a SaaS model, or you go into the open source realm, which is kind of where you were before, so you go to an Oro Commerce, a Drupal Commerce, a Pimco or Pimcore or whatever, Pimcore,
one of those kind of solutions.
Yeah.
So,
and I guess that's kind of the situation now where, okay, so I'm on Magento Enterprise or Magento Community. I'm kind of coming to the terms that I might need to move over. In your opinion, what is the timing on that? Is it this is a tricky one because I know I'm kind of picking the business brain now. Is it do you just move regardless, in your opinion, or do you kind of wait for a certain thing to take place and then say, okay, we're at that threshold now, we need to make a decision?
You need to at least have something planned a little bit. You should look into some other offerings. You should have an idea, right? Maybe they say, hey, we're going to do support for another 4 years or something like that. Then you don't have such, as much of a rush or whatever. Maybe it starts to taper off quite quickly. Adobe's just getting their, wrapped around what this, entails. They have all these new employees to bring on, all this new software, all these, managers to, meet with and everything. So it's going to take them a bit to sort of figure out how they're going to integrate this into their system. But you should have something in your back pocket. You should kind of know what platforms you might want to move to, because it could become unsupported. You could just not like the direction it goes into. There's change is going to happen, right? And so you should be a little bit prepared in the event that that's not change you like. What's the backup plan? Where are you going, right? Because you don't want to be stuck on a platform that doesn't work for you, isn't supported, and you don't have an exit strategy.
That's fair. I know you haven't asked me, but I'm going to say it anyway, what my opinion would be.
Oh.
And that would be, the theory that I've always had when it comes to e-commerce is whenever you've launched your latest platform, you should already be preparing your re-platform, right? And so whether that is, you're on, in Magento in this case, you're on Drupal Commerce, it doesn't really matter where you are. You've now hit, you've launched and you're building your features and you're continuing to push your platform forward. Yes, you're going to continue doing that on the platform you're on, but you should already be be preparing where you're going to be in 2 years.
In the event of
anything, really. It could be the event of your own growth.
Yeah.
It could be the event of the technology changing, or even just the e-commerce landscape changing, in which maybe the way you're doing something is like completely completely different.
You might spend 6 months to a year researching platforms.
Sure.
And so if you start that once you need to replatform, now you're way behind, because you have to research them, you have to find a vendor, you have to do that, and then you have to do the replatform, and now we're 2.5 years down the road, and you needed to replatform 2.5 years ago. What's happening in your business during
Well, absolutely,
that
right?
time?
Like, you could even look at this as like some really easy examples. Is you have catalog-based e-commerce site to now a search-faceted e-commerce site to like a site that supports a fully personalized product matching site to actually you putting in different parameters.
Well, and even just things
that.
like now, like everything's mobile, right? But like 5 years ago, it wasn't, or whatever, right? But it's changed so quickly that now it's ubiquitous that of course it's mobile, right?
Yeah,
but
of
if
course,
if you're just transitioning into mobile now because you were behind, what about all those customers over the last 3 years where mobile has become really popular?
Sure.
It'd be nice if you just didn't have to, you could change once every 20 years, but unfortunately you're involved in e-commerce, and
and that's just not going to happen.
That's just moving really fast. It's everything on the internet, and for all indications, that stuff is only going to move faster, right? Innovation and adoption of new technologies gets faster and faster as we go along. It used to take 20 years, then it takes 5 years, and then it takes 2 years. Companies you use like huge companies like Uber and Airbnb and stuff like that, they didn't even exist 10 years ago, and now they're multi-billion-dollar companies.
Yeah, it really boils down to that. If business agility is a priority for your business, then you probably are already looking anyway.
Yeah.
So
if you sell e-commerce, business agility should be a priority for your
yes, I would
business.
hope so.
Yeah.
So what's the too long didn't read today?
You need to be preparing to replatform, even if you don't, right? Maybe Magento goes totally in the direction you want it to, but you don't know that.
Sure.
So you need to have at least something in your back pocket.
Right on. Well, we hope this definitely strikes some conversation pieces going. So if you have any comments, put them down below. And of course, subscribe to our channel.
You can also check out our blog on acromedia.com. You can follow us on Facebook, and you can follow me on Twitter.